Hey guys, it's Chris Truitt from The Reluctant Somm. We're really excited about Season 3. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Just wanted to give another little note that if you like what we're doing and you want to show us some support, reviews, likes, shares, word of mouth, all of these things really help us. We'll also be creating a newsletter this year that focuses on some of our favorite restaurants, favorite wine lists, favorite places to eat, as well as just some really cool people in the industry, as well as some other insights into what's going on in our field of profession. I also wanted to let you know that on that is where we'll be updating everybody on all of our pop-ups and any collaboration events or anything that we're doing. So if you want to keep track of us, that's the best way. Also, if you're not already following us on Instagram, you can follow us at Reluctant Somm on Instagram and keep up with us. Give us likes. Cheers. Bianca, cheers. We made it.
This is great.
A little toast of some lovely vintage champagne to celebrate the beginning of Season 3. We've officially survived 2024 somehow, barely, and we've come out the other side. And not only did we survive, we're re-innovating. We've added an extra camera angle. We're in a new office. For anybody that's watching the video, they're able to see.
The ambiance is a little different, right?
It's a little different, but we like it.
Different.
We like it. We got a little...
We're super happy.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, the production level's going up. Mm-hmm. Eventually we'll get that third camera, but we got to, get a couple things moving along before
sponsor
we get
us.
there.
Help us buy the camera, somebody.
So, yeah, maybe we should run like a little, buy us a third camera for our podcast.
Yeah.
But,
to
anyway.
celebrate champagne, and we are having San Francisco's version of McDonald's.
It's basically like vegan McDonald's, because we're trying to be intentional here. Who knows if it's actually better than, I'm sure it's still full of processed stuff, but maybe it's not.
Or if
right?
McDonald's still actually owns it.
It's supposed to make you feel better.
I feel like McDonald's owning it is the only way that makes sense. So for anybody that's listening and not watching, this is called Mr. Charlie's, and they have this thing that's called a Happy Meal, and you get a burger, fries, a drink, and some chicken nuggets.
I don't know if that's what.
And it's all vegan. And it comes in a red box with a frowny face on it instead of a happy face.
Okay.
So we're really dancing on the border of a cease and desist lawsuit here for your entertainment. Maybe not for us, but for them. And we've ordered from here before, and it's actually pretty good. It's a little filling. I don't know what it's made of, but the whole idea was just to get French fries and have French fries and champagne. I think that's the main purpose.
Whole story.
Yeah, Bianca's giving me a napkin because I'm a disaster.
Because I've been working all day, and I have yet to really eat. I ate earlier, I guess.
So I guess one of the other cool things about Season 3 is the new setting. As I was discussing earlier, we got a new office space that we're really excited about, and yeah, it comes with this little room that we get to use as much as we want, as long as it's after a certain time frame and we don't have to compete for occupancy with anybody else.
Yes. Office has been a game changer. I think with our consultancy stuff on the side, and then also the podcast, it's just great to have like that extended workplace beyond your home. I think for a long time people were kind of working from home. And I think it just it's nice to have that separation between the two things. I think that will definitely be helpful. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think too, like as a salesperson and somebody in outside sales, it's really easy for your car to become your office, and that's fine for a little while, but it really becomes like unsustainable. It's either that or your house is your office, and it's harder for you to leave because you're like, I have so many more things I need to do. I could organize this. I could email that.
Plus, we also have a 2-year-old. So she's freaking a 2-year-old. So that's very distracting when we're at home sometimes, because sometimes we have to work late and do projects like I did today, which I'm working on the rebrand of the Reluctant Somm. It's taken me a minute, but, we're slowly getting there.
Mm-hmm. So this is Season 3. Welcome to Season 3. It's Chris and Bianca, your team behind the Reluctant Somm, and Chris the host. Bianca does all things marketing. She helps me plan a couple interviews from time to time with some of the amazing wineries that she represents and other people that she has great connections with. And like Bianca was insinuating, we're going to have new branding. We're going to have new logos. We're working on a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to update the website at some point. Like, this is really a year where we're kind of trying to refine a little bit more what this is. And as a reminder for anybody that is listening or anybody that hasn't listened to another episode, the podcast has really taken on a life of its own. It's gone from a podcast that we thought would be a wine podcast that would help consumers drink wine and make wine more approachable. And I think it's made wine more approachable, but it also has kind of turned its focus towards like the hospitality and beverage industry. So we've interviewed, wine directors and general managers and winemakers. I said winemakers already, and more winemakers, master somms, and just kind of like everybody from all walks of life. We're going to work on getting a few more people from the kitchen. It's a little bit harder, a little bit more.
We do want to focus
needed.
a little bit more on the hospitality aspect. I mean, I think us both really like starting our careers early on in restaurants. I think we want to get a little bit more of that grit and, just the personalities like in restaurants, because I think, you work really, really hard in restaurants. And I think we want to showcase that a little bit more as much as possible. But again, we're also in the wine industry as well. So we do, I think, having wine buyers and wine related people on from the wineries to wine salespeople is also a little bit of our niche as well. But I think, a little bit more hospitality aspect would be really fun this season. And I think, when we kind of worked on some of the brand messaging and kind of tried to figure out like who we are, right? I think one big thing was like to focus on like where we came from, and that grit that we like learned so early on, I think is so apparent even still now in sales and that like chaotic energy of restaurants and everything. And I think that's kind of translating over to like where like some of the characteristics we want to be able to carry forth with like building a community of people, whether it's like, restaurant rebels or whatever you want to call it, misfits or
Trauma
whatever.
bonding.
Yeah. All of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that's important to highlight in this episode is all the amazing people that we had in season 1. Well, I guess technically season 2. Season 1 has been archived. It was post-pandemic or during the pandemic, and it was me just like drunk in a room talking about wines or wine regions. And I did an episode on triple sec, and I drank a bunch of triple sec, and I got like hammered. And there was no video, and it was a much lower quality. So as we pass by season 2 and we move into season 3, just a big thanks to all the amazing guests that we've had and all the people that have reached out. We're really excited about season 3. We have even more guests coming. In case anybody's wondering, yes, eventually we would love to have people back on. But I think right now we just have like a really good kind of like pipeline of people that are interested and that want to do it. And we're trying to kind of like share the time and share the space with as many people as we can, because I think that it's a really great opportunity for us to practice, having a conversation one-on-one, listening without the distractions of phones and iPads and laptops and emails or TV. And it's just, I think it's a good practice to kind of get in of like that human connection,
Mm-hmm. Now, the question you guys all are wondering, are these chicken nuggets as good as the McDonald's chicken nuggets? I think they changed their recipe because this one's actually pretty good.
You like this one more? I like the last one more. That's funny. This one kind of has like a doughy character to it that I'm not really.
I don't think so.
Well, vegan chicken nuggets, I'm not sure. I
think this is closer to the McDonald's nuggets than, look at the crust.
The crust is good. Yeah. And the fries are almost identical too. I'll say that. I'll give them.
Yeah, maybe like a little less salt than the McDonald's ones.
Yeah. And maybe less beef bouillon. I hear that they put that in the French fries, which wouldn't be surprising, right? No wonder they're so good.
But it's delicious with the champagne.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the best part. Champagne. It's there for victory and defeat, as they say. Let's see. So, I think it would maybe behoove us to talk about 2024 as a year, maybe as on the broad spectrum, but we could.
2024 was fucking hard. I'm so excited for 2025. And I'm not like one of those people that are like, yay, it's a new year, new resolutions, new me. Oh, no. I'm not like that. I'm a realist. But I do have a good feeling about 2025 because we've already started it pretty well, moving into the new office, a couple other consulting gigs that we might lock in, just, getting things moving and grooving. I think 2024 was just so tough. Not just only for the wine industry, but also San Francisco. Ugh, it was kind of like brutal. And 2023 wasn't a walk in the park either, right? So I think that compounding on, all of it, the last 2 years have been tough. So 2025, like, I can't imagine it's going to be worse than those 2 years. If it is, then we're all just, the world is kind of ending in certain ways anyway. So,
Well, that'll either encourage people to drink more or encourage them to drink less. But I think that 24 was a particularly challenging year, and we're facing it on many fronts. I think that 2025 feels a little bit better. There's a couple healthy vintages across the globe that are at least a little bit better. There's a couple challenging vintage. 24 Sancerre is in a bad place. So when that happens, that we're going to see pricing increase. But in a way, I think that's probably for the best. People are going to start drinking something else besides fucking Sancerre.
But we've been seeing price increases on Sancerre anyway, right? So it's going up more. Like,
some producers are actually going to start falling into allocation program.
All right, let's try this vegan burger.
Vegan burger and allocated Sancerre. That's the world we're living in. It's getting past to me. Is that a good sign or a bad sign?
It's just very chewy.
Bouncy.
Yeah. Like vegan bouncy.
But 2025, I think, is going to be good for many different reasons. And I really have hope that many wineries and businesses are going to be able to survive much more easily this year than they were last year. That being said, I think that there's still going to be plenty of challenges, right? We see this growing concern around tariffs. We see this growing concern around, putting cancer warnings on wine bottles. We see this growing concern around, people drinking less. And I think that, like, it's great to be concerned about those things, but I think at some point we have to kind of like acknowledge it and move on. In a way, it's like, yes, it will be a challenge, but there will be other opportunities, I think.
So what you're saying is we're adaptable. We figure it out. Mm-hmm. We've been dealing with this shit for 2 years. We're ready to get going. Mm-hmm. You have to at some point, right? Otherwise, you're just staying stagnant. And I think, even being on the sales side, right? You have to learn the buying habits, and how they've changed. With the later half of 2023 and then 2024. And you've adjusted more or less, right? So I think 2025, if anything, I think people are just a little bit more equipped and prepared for what the new landscape is going to look like or is looking like.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's just like everybody's just become dynamic. And I also think, though, with that, a lot of times the consumer base has become a lot more understanding also. I was recently on another podcast that I'm excited to announce at some point when it goes up. And that was one of the things that we were talking about. It's just like, it really sucks for a lot of these small businesses that are like, whether they be retail or on-prem or whatever their business model is, that they've been struggling since the pandemic, or at least the last year and a half, and that there's not necessarily like a light at the end of the tunnel quite yet, but it's almost like this reliability on being dynamic. It's this reliability on your own skills to roll with the punches, or maybe just like laugh in the face of adversity and be like, this is going to fucking suck, but whatever, we're going to get through it,
What I said, adaptability.
Adaptability.
Adaptability or die.
Yeah.
That's like how restaurants are anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You have a really good service, you have a really bad service, you have a really busy service, you have a really slow service. You just
adapt.
kind of have to.
You learn to anticipate needs.
Yeah, anticipate guest needs. Mm-hmm. That was the big one for me when I was a kid. That was the one that got hammered into me.
So it's like, it is what it is. But, I will have more of that hamburger.
Oh,
and
I'll
then
eat it all.
basically after that, then I should probably be less hangry, and then I can focus on this a little bit more. But, until then, we're going to have some champagne and fake McDonald's.
I know. We should have just got caviar. There's some bullshit on Instagram the other day I saw, and it says, like, better than caviar and vegan.
But we can't afford caviar at the moment.
I know. Well, we did get caviar. That was the delivery service that delivered our food.
True. Yeah, so I just feel like, yes, the last 2 years have been tough years. We're all excited about 2025, whatever that looks like. And even if it's a shit show, we can just all laugh about it as it's happening and everything's burning around us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that meme, like the dog sitting in the bar that's on fire, and he's like, this is fine. It's just like, yeah, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's going to be so interesting for the younger generations, and then also the younger generations in our industry, is I literally think it's a time to like really figure out what's next as far as our career development goes, because I don't know. I think whether it's restaurant industry or sales industry, wine sales specifically, right? We've seen both sides of these different things, and like, it is interesting. Yes, there's career growth, but I also think we need to be honest when there's like career caps too, or limits to what you are able to stably, on a stable basis, make as far as money goes, because the world is getting more expensive, y'all. So, when it comes to people that were in previous generations in our industry, and they could buy a home 25 years ago and have a lease, or not a lease, a mortgage for a fairly, good rate, that's like not an option for us. So we are paying $4,000 a month on rent in San Francisco, living in San Francisco. And of course, everyone wants their sales reps in San Francisco, in the territory. The point being is, I think, it's a good time, or, Somms or whatever, feeling like they're not making enough money either. I think it's a good time to like kind of think about, what does career development look like now? And hence why we're doing the podcast. We're working on some digital products for our consultancy company to streamline it, have a streamlined offering, but at the same time being able to scale that. And I think, we have the internet at our disposal, but I think it's a good time to kind of realize how, restaurants definitely shape a lot of cool skills. And, restaurant people have a lot to offer, and wine salespeople too. I think a lot of wine salespeople do come from restaurants as well. At least we did, right? So there's that. But I don't know. I think it's a good time to kind of figure out what's next, for not just our industry and our generation, but I think just our younger generations as a whole too.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up something really important, and that's kind of like where our industry is right now, right? And I would say, obviously, like, to each market their own. Like, everything in America is becoming more expensive, and if the tariffs do take place, everything is going to become even more expensive. But realizing that, like, a graded pay scale, if somebody in the Midwest is making the same amount as somebody in San Francisco, it's not really the same pay, because the cost of living is drastically different, And I think that, in a way, many businesses are kind of like, I don't want to say archaic, but like they see like the cost of paying an employee, and they find it hard to justify paying that employee significantly more when they can look at their books from 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, that was enough money. Or 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, that was really good money. And it's like,
because it would cut into some of their profit at the top end, right? And I think they aren't willing to sacrifice that, because we are very much in America, and we have this like corporate profit over everything. And while not every single thing is like large corporations, I think that same mentality for, successful businesses have a certain, cap at what they want to pay their employees. But again, when the cost of living is going just scaling, I think there needs to be some considerations of what a healthy salary should be. But again, I think our industry specifically sees kind of the, shit end of it, and, without lack of better words, but like, again, we know a lot of restaurant people, we know a lot of salespeople, and it's a struggle right now. Right. So I think it will be interesting to see how that shapes up in the next couple years, but we're in such a weird place with what we do too, because in, regular consumer or regular people's eyes, they're just like, oh, you get to go to like cool champagne lunches. You get to like taste some of the best wines in the world and do all these cool things. And it's like, yeah, I get to do all of that. And I'm always stressed because I'm not making enough money and I'm not being able to pay my bills or, whatever. And hence, having to get creative and work like 4 million different jobs to sustain a lifestyle, but not a crazy lifestyle. Literally rent, daycare, food. That is the lifestyle. That being said, I think our standard for quality food is high, farmers market and, quality meat. I think we're not hopefully willing to sacrifice our health later on, I think that's a standard that we've had. So it's not always going to be the cheapest, like Safeway meat that we're choosing to purchase. But that being said, I think being able to find, healthy options for food and then pay your bills is a basic need, man. And I just wish, our industry could catch up a little bit. And again, maybe that's a little too honest and transparent, but, I just feel like there's a lot of not transparency with salaries and stuff. And I don't know, I think creating a space where at least that's heard with people in this industry is important,
Yeah. And I also think like creating a space where like thinking outside the box is encouraged.
What else are other options, right? And, there's a lot of different opportunities, I think, especially digitally now, to make a little side gig,
Yeah, I think that we're seeing it happen all the time. You have this rise of like wine influencers,
But they're not restaurant people. And that's what my main thing is we don't need another Becky around the block, telling us about the different types of wines we should have at Trader Joe's. What we need, right, are people that live, breathe, and eat hospitality because they have skills and they have so much to offer. And I want to hear more of those voices. And maybe that's just me being biased, having like had a long career in restaurants and still working, with restaurants and in restaurants for the consulting stuff. But I think, I don't know, again, there's a certain level of like, I think it's a little different now with the younger generations in the restaurant industry, but at least when we started, right, millennials and later millennials at that, but we started at a time where we really got the like, ooh, this is a little bit traumatic upbringing. And nobody's saying go back to the toxic, work environments in restaurants. But I think the grit and the perspective we have on things and that level of excellence that was like ingrained in some of our service training, right? I don't know. I think that offers a unique perspective. And I think, it's cool to highlight that.
Yeah.
Not just us, but people like us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I'll say that I agree with the caveat, right? I think that any wine content is good wine content as long as it's attracting more and more people to the wine industry, right?
And I know. I'm not saying, I'm not dismissing,
I know. Yeah.
entire groups or people or anything by any means. Like, I think any exposure to wine is amazing, right? But I also think, it's important to make sure that the voices being heard and seen are diversified, right? And experiences. And I think restaurant kids have a certain level of grit that isn't easy to come by, right? And so I think it would be cool, right?
Yeah, I think it's not that it would be cool. It is cool. And that's I think the whole point of what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing is trying to build a space for restaurant industry people, service industry, hospitality industry, beverage industry people to connect and feel heard and feel understood. Because I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's interesting to think that, you know, the rise of the influencer has kind of like done some things to our world, right? But like, you have people that, you know, were master plumbers or whatever, and somebody can be like an at-home handyman and just make YouTube videos, and if they get enough popularity, like they can make more money than any other plumber in their industry, right? Like, social media has become this incredibly powerful tool that I think that, like, I don't think people are taking advantage of. I just think that, like, you know, saying like, you know, I'm going to go through my WSET classes, I'm going to study, I'm going to show you how I study and show you what I do to pass the tests, and recording a bunch of content is not easy. It's just different than like working service, working in a well, working as a cellar rat, working as a floor somm, and like doing those.
But I think also
acts.
it's important to realize the toll that takes on you mentally, emotionally, physically, you know? And I think there's just, again, something to highlight with that as well. And, you know, I know that the industry is a lot different than when we were being brought up in the industry, but it's almost like if we were to like think of right now and what we're trying to build a community around, it's almost like if younger Anthony Bourdain's, if we didn't have such a you know, let's say pessimistic ending. Let's do the cool shit, you know, let's have an optimistic ending. But at the same time, you can't take away the pain. You can't take away the struggle. You can't take away the long shifts. You can't take away, you know, the too many late night drinks kind of thing. But you can turn that into perspective. You can turn that into experience, and you can, you know, use that energy as momentum forward. And I just think, you know, I don't know. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to me also, like, my hope is that like for non-industry people, that this will also offer a little bit more kind of perspective. And we've all walked up to a table and been treated like shit by a guest, or the bar and been treated like shit by a guest. And it's like, whether they're having a bad day or like whatever, you know? And I'm not saying that they don't understand, because sometimes they do and they just choose not to care. But I think, like, again, the more that we're able to talk about stuff and the more we're able to kind of like peel back the layers of the onion, the more easy it is going to be to connect on a human level. And like, I don't like, what would I rather have? Walk up to a table, have them be like kind of standoffish, but tell me exactly what they want and like kind of take some suggestions? Or would I rather have that table that's like, oh my God, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Everything's amazing. Everything's amazing. Everything's amazing. Like, somewhere in between, I think, is the answer. You know, I don't really have one or other that I would prefer, but I would love for us all to kind of like have the tools and have the perspective to find a little bit more of that middle ground. And I think it's with conversations like this and with authentic connection that we're able to.
And I think for the
find
regular
those things.
consumer, right? For the regular person, there's so much to be had with this podcast, in the sense of like, one thing about the service industry is how much of a human element and human touch it inherently has, right? Taking care of people, right? And let's be honest, all y'all were fascinated with the bear. We lived that. We breathed that like, you know, that anxiety riddling thing. Oh God, we can feel it in our bones. You know, it's re-triggering. It's triggering to watch that type of stuff, because we know exactly what that feels like. You know, and they didn't even show as much of the front of the house experience. You know, obviously they did a great job, you know, diving into the back of the house experience, right? But the front of the house experience, well, it also has another level of toxic things and all these things wrapped up into one, and it's got a pretty little package while it's doing it. You're like crying and yelling in the walk-in, just like he did, right? Basically melting down. But then you have to go back out in front of a guest and say, good evening. Right away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so, I don't know, I think, yeah, there's the performance is like on adrenaline when you're, you know, it depends on the caliber of restaurant you're in, but when you're in a high caliber, high volume restaurant, you know, you feel it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that like, I don't know. In
but
a
it's
way,
also addicting in a weird way too. Like when you have a really good service, like you're anticipating every single need. You're just having this flow state. Like, oh my God, it's beautiful. But then it's hard because if you mess up one thing, you have to just basically be like, okay, I can't spiral, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't spiral, and then you do good. And you're like, okay, that's cool. But I think that level of perfectionism, it can be detrimental, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, again, it's important. It's important to like want to do good, want to be great, want to do better every day, and want to hold yourself accountable. I think those are all great, like admirable things. But it's when you beat the shit out of yourself about it that it becomes the issue. Or when somebody else beats the shit out of you about it, that it becomes an issue. Or when you tie your self-worth to your performance, right? And I think that's when it's one of those things that's like, this is the hospitality industry, right? You're supposed to be hospitable. This is the service industry. You're supposed to be performing those acts of service, right? But I think that when you tie your self-worth to something that's not always in your control, you're kind of painting yourself in a like really dangerous box, right?
And I think that's such a millennial thing to do is to tie your self-worth. And I think older generations for sure too. But it's so funny with Gen Z and we're all like, they're lazy, blah, 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 blah. They just don't tie their self-worth to their work.
They don't care about anything.
Isn't that progress, you guys? Isn't that to some degree progressing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could fucking hate your job for 30 years and work at the same place for 30 years. And that was like the most amazing thing you could do. There was so much merit in like staying at the place that you started at when you were 18 and you never left and you retired there. That was like the way, that was the path of our parents, of the generations before us, you know?
Yeah, well, again, they had the opportunity to actually buy real estate and now be millionaires off that real estate.
Yep.
Like it's just a totally different, you know, experience, right?
Now we have to move to promote half the
we're
time.
probably a little bitter about being the age we are and not being able to have that opportunity, that same opportunity, because I think we're realizing it. I think it's just coming to our brain like, oh, wait, how old am I? Oh, wait, what did my parents have at my age? And what did they do? And why do I work objectively, like harder? You could say subjectively, like our parents worked hard, of course, you know, but like, I don't know. I'm like, it's not like we're not working hard. We're working so much and hustling so much. And, you know, I do feel like we'll find success, you know, no matter what. I think we just have to dive more into our authenticity and like the things that we enjoy and really having to think outside the box, right, to get there. But I definitely feel like we'll get there. But that's not a mindset our parents had to have. They could feel safe with a 9 to 5 and be okay, you know?
Shit, they used to be able to, one of them would have a job and it would pay for the household.
Dude, we both work. And
yeah,
it doesn't even...
We both work multiple jobs.
If we're being honest, not only are we tight, it's like, thank God for, you know, credit cards, right? We're not in a crazy amount of debt, you know? We don't have student loan debt or this or that, but it is what it is. I hate that phrase.
I know, I hate that phrase.
I feel like that's a millennial phrase. It is what it is. Like, I hate that phrase so much. I'm like, can we just like cancel that phrase and like rephrase it to something else? Like it is.
Do what it do.
It is what you make. It is
what you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That gives you some accountability.
I feel like we need to still edit that and think about that phrase a little bit more. But
no,
we'll get
fuck
there.
it. Let's just go for it. Let's commit. Let's push the launch button. It is what you make it. Not always, but
it
sometimes.
It is until it isn't.
It is. Ooh. But we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit.
It's okay.
And I think
I'm
it's
sure
good.
People will enjoy it.
It's natural. It's authentic. And that's what we aim for in all of these podcasts. But we should also I want to make sure to save a little bit of time for a little bit more of a recap on season 2 and a little bit more of kind of like what to expect in season 3 and kind of, well, what to expect in 2025. And, in season 2, we did a couple pop-ups and they were so fun.
They were so great.
And we learned a lot. But one of the things that we also learned, I think, was like the amount of time and bandwidth it takes to do them. So I think this year, last year we did 2. And again, the podcast only started May 15th last year in 2024, right? So doing 2 is fine. And this year we could do more. But the first one that we did that I really loved was our Sardinian takeover. We were at Holbrook House where Hernan, one of our previous guests, is the manager. And Matteo Azzori, one of our other previous guests, is a Sardinian gentleman that's also a DJ. And we were pouring 3 Sardinian wines, and we had like cheese and meat and oysters and stuff. Not a ton of oysters. They got crushed right away.
You guys, we couldn't afford too many oysters, so sorry you got what you got. And all the office people came and stole all the oysters.
Yeah, but it was $5.
We only got like a dozen.
It was $5. They have this gorgeous atrium in San Francisco that's open to the public until 6
We charged
every
$5,
night.
and we definitely didn't even break even with that. So we learned our lesson. Charge more than $5.
But you got 3 tastes of wine.
We had like almost like 70 people there, though.
Yeah, you got 3 tastes of wine. And you got to listen to a guy playing funk on vinyl.
Going forward, it'll probably be like
$5.
$15 is a good sweet spot.
Sure, 15 or whatever. And then the second pop-up we did was actually with Matteo at Montesacro Somm, this great Italian restaurant in San Francisco with this wonderful food. They're tied to 54 Mint and Bettola and the other Montesacro in the marina. And I think there's one in Walnut Creek. And I think they opened one in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. But food's awesome. And we did this great pop-up with Casey from Granacista, the winemaker.
And we had the wines. And what was it, a 4-course, I think?
Oh, yeah. I think it was a 4-course with 4 wines and then a complimentary splash.
Wine pairings for $80, which is
Was it
really
80?
competitive. Maybe
such a good
85,
price.
but like 80 or 85 per person, which honestly is very competitive for the city. That's very good pricing.
Super competitive, yeah.
For everything that you got, yeah.
And it was great.
And Chris got to, be on the floor. It was great. It was fantastic. He missed it.
I got to put the bells on and I got to do the show. But it was so cool. And also like it was a long time since I'd worked in a setting like that, right? Montesacro is great. It's like you walk in, the decor is cute.
So
it
cute.
looks like grandma's house.
Looks like Italian grandma.
Yeah, Italian grandma's house, right? And like you feel at home and the staff does a really good job of like making you feel comfortable. And so like when I was there and I was just like helping, it was just easy to just like fall in and like we like to have people at the house and we like to cook and we like to host. And it was just like that. I just walk around and it's like, even if I don't know what I'm doing, like I know that I can clear plates. I know that I can pour wine. Like those are the things that I know how to do. And so like, if you could do that, you could work anywhere in like a loose setting. Right. And that was so fun. And I'm just really grateful for like the people that we've had that have been to both events or any event or people that want to make it to future events and very
I think we'll have a
appreciative,
champagne event soon, a champagne pop-up. The thing about champagne is it's expensive, y'all. Like we try to cut it and we try to look in it. We will do it at Trevino Wine Bar in Mission Bay, but champagne's expensive. Yeah, that's just what it is. But we'll do caviar bumps and we'll do champagne. How about that?
And it'll be a guest chef.
Well, we're going to do a champagne dinner, but then I'm also like, we should also have a champagne tasting for people that want more casual stuff. But again, it's still going to be what it is.
And the other thing
what
that
it
we
is
wanna
until
do,
it isn't.
Until it isn't. Ooh.
Because champagne's expensive.
And then the other thing that we want
have
to do
to,
over there that's really exciting that maybe will be tied to the Reluctant Somm or maybe not, but either way, just like a cool thing that we're like, again, this is thinking outside the box. This is thinking of other ways that we can kind of like, I don't know, increase excitement and increase people's exposure to things. It's like we're also talking about doing like a night market in Mission Bay.
Yeah, it's going to be the Mission Bay Night Market.
Mission Bay Night Market.
And we want to have like different vendors that we work with.
Yeah. We've got dips from Dolores Deluxe. We're going to be pouring some wine, maybe have a winemaker Still need to talk to a couple people.
We want the cool candle girl in Mission if you're watching this.
If you're, for any reason, candle girl that makes the special butterbeer candle that smells just like butterbeer from Harry Potter, which I wouldn't know what it smells like, but it smells really good.
It smells really good.
Oh, if you're listening to this, please join our night market. We've got to find her somehow. I don't know how we're going to find her.
I guess we have to go back to the Mission market. And,
Yeah, it was on Valencia. Yeah. If anybody's listening to this and they know that girl, DM us.
Anyway, yeah. So again, I think the main thing is like we want to do more community-based stuff. And I've lived in San Francisco since 2012. You know what? I feel like it's just lacked. 2012, there was a little bit more cool stuff going on, a couple more events in a very 2012 kind of way, right? But that being said, it's just been like so lackluster of all of that. And I think people are craving it and needing it. And I think for there to be culture in the city, it has to be more than just money, you know, and not even like cultured money. It's just money, you know, and it's just depressing, right? People want to have events and go to cool shit and meet cool people and do other things than work, you know? So I don't know, for whatever, you know, in whatever capacity we can contribute to that, we certainly will try, you know?
If you're listening to this and you're a restaurant manager or a somm or a wine buyer, or you're doing anything that involves the restaurant industry.
You're breaking the third wall right now.
I know, that's the point. It's gonna be great. Mm-hmm. If you're a restaurant professional and you are in the weeds constantly and you are doing 4 jobs, just know you're not alone, and we appreciate you, and all of your colleagues appreciate you, and I think we're all going to get through this. We can all drink our way through it, but
so
we're going to get through
tangent, this. But, you know, we're talking about events.
Well, we were talking about events, but then we were talking about building community, and it's kind of
like... Yes, building community, sure, yes.
It's about showing appreciation to the community.
I thought you were going to go and say, if you want to do a pop-up, and I will work your job for you for free.
No, wait a minute.
You know?
Maybe not for free.
Yeah, basically for free.
Well, we just don't...
We did that already, so yeah, it works.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
If you want to do something...
Chris likes to work service.
If you want to do something, let me know. Hit me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can bus tables, too.
I can do that. I'll bust tables.
You will.
Yeah. I have a funny story. Whenever we get a special guest on that I've been trying to nail down for a while, I will tell...
Did I eat all of these nuggets myself?
I ate one. I'll tell an incredibly embarrassing story that I...
You didn't even touch your sweet and sour sauce.
Really loved. You can have it. Do you want my sweet and sour sauce?
Yes.
You guys are just missing this. This is peak season 3 intro.
Well, you know, a girl needs to eat, so...
Should it be season 3 intro or should it be season 2 conclusion? Season 3 intro.
It's the season 3 intro for sure.
Yeah. It definitely is. What are we going to do for season... New setup? 2 cameras? You're going to have to edit that later. Sorry. Cool. Yeah. And yeah, so 2025, more pop-ups, more podcasts.
More community building.
Let's
just create some shit, you know, something. Sorry, I cuss too much, I guess. But
whatever. Who fucking cares? Yeah, and also, too, like, I think one of the cool things that I really love to hear is when people are meeting up with each other and they're talking about the podcast and they're connecting over the podcast. And not like that sounds like really arrogant, like, oh, I love that people are talking about the podcast. But, like, I love that, you know, we got in touch with...
No, they're supporting each other. That's what we love. They're like, yes. I love when I saw so-and-so. Like, and I loved when they talked about this, like, and sometimes they've met, sometimes they haven't met. And I love the industry supporting the industry.
Yeah.
I love it. That's amazing.
I was going to say, like, we only got Donald from Arlequin because of Matthew Oldenburg. And then we did this great event the other day and had a bunch of people over, and it was fun. It was a wonderful time. Drank too much.
Beaujolais Day.
Sometimes. Beaujolais Day. And
we tasted all 10 crews of Beaujolais.
It was great.
We're supposed to do a reel on it, but
and we had somebody there who will be a future guest, and he was at Arlequin buying his Beaujolais, and they were talking about the podcast, and that was just so cool to see that, like, they were able to meet and have like a deeper connection than just like, I went to the shop, I bought the bottle, I left. They were able to sit and talk about the podcast and talk about those things. And it's like breaking down the barrier. It's like getting to know somebody a little bit more without having the time, because none of us have the fucking time. You know, even this, it's 10:30 at night. We're recording this podcast and it's like, we're exhausted, but this is when we have the time and when we can find the time to do it. And so I'm just, yeah, very grateful for all the people that we've had on, and excited for all the people that are coming down the pipeline. And
No, we've had amazing people. We've built really great connections with people. Everyone's very supportive, you know. I honestly, knock on wood, maybe if we get more popular, this will happen. But I don't even know. I'm like, is haters a thing? Like, I feel like
yeah, I'm
back
sure
in
we
our
have some
teenage
haters.
days, haters were a thing. Yeah, but they're like closeted haters. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean,
so,
for now. Yeah.
I mean, come at us, you know.
Don't. No.
We have thick skin.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not going to read the comments. I don't care. I guess I respond to the comments, so
Yeah.
I read them. But, yeah, I think I would challenge whoever is our hater to come on the
I don't think we
podcast.
have haters.
Maybe we would, but come on
mean,
the podcast.
maybe-
This is me. Let's get more.
I just
Get in here,
I just think it's
sit
becoming
down
less and
across
less
from me.
common to
No.
have haters. Because when you look at the comments, not of our podcast, because we're not popular enough per se, but like if you look at the comments of like everything else online, I mean, like I love reading the comment section because I'm always like, what does the public think? Am I aligned
yeah.
with what their thoughts are? And like honestly, half of it's just like funny stuff too, and then half of it's like, yeah, that's how I feel. And yeah, you know, it's so funny when there is a little hater on it, like everyone comments on them and they're just like, why are you hating? You know, why you got, I don't know. Even the word or term hater feels kind of outdated, you know?
Yeah. I also feel like it's different, right? Like, I feel like it's really easy to like maybe dislike somebody or dislike somebody's character when they're playing a character. But I feel like this is very much like who we are, and we're being authentic. And like our whole goal is to just like help people connect.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
also give a space to maybe an industry that hasn't always had a space before, you know? Because again, we've always had to be on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
here you gotta just be yourself in whatever way that looks like.
Whatever way that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I love to see how the podcast developed in season 2. I love to see that like we had so many people on, and to see like some of the trends of things that we were talking about. And I think one of the things that was really cool was just like talking about like, you know, I think Chris Rivera brought it up on his podcast, and it was kind of like, you know, the slippery slope of drug addiction in the hospitality industry. And, you know, other people talked about like unhealthy expectations and like, you know, like the amount of stress that you put yourself through and holding yourself to really high standards, all the things that we talked about today. If we're not talking about it, it's not going to get better, right?
Yeah.
It's not. And I'm not saying that everything needs to get better, but if like, I don't know, if I had a really bad service when I was young and I first got into the hospitality industry, well, not when I first got into the hospitality industry, but when I was like 19 or 20 and I could sneak in the bar with a bunch of my servers because they were older than me, I would have a bad service and I would go and I would just like drink and just ruminate on it. And I would let it like ruin my entire night. And then I'd wake up the next day and I'd be like, fuck, I hope today doesn't suck too. And then I would go to work and I would have a good day. And I'd be like, great. And then I would ride that wave into the next shift, into the next shift, into the next shift. And I think that, you know, hopefully by talking about this stuff and being able to, you know, vent a little bit more, or at least acknowledge things for what they are, it helps, you know, the newer generation and the older generation and whoever in like coping with the amount of, you know, stress and
I think there's a couple of things, right? Like some of that can be with the people that you are immediately surrounding and with, right? The type of environment you are in. But I do think the digital landscape is now able to offer some of that connection in a way that maybe we didn't used to have, right? That we would go to the bar because that was the most obvious form of connection, right? But I also think, like, at least for us, you know, yes, we jumped into sales and day jobs a little bit, so that shifted some stuff. But even before that, I think there was just a certain level of maturity that happened, and we're like, okay, at some point we can't just keep doing this. And it's ironic too, because I feel like when we would go to the bars and spend like $160 on a tab, you know, with, you know, one or two of our friends from the restaurants, we were making so much fucking money.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. And like, I'm sorry, the cost of living at that time, it was good. We were good. Things were golden. I got to travel and solo travel all the time, and go on really nice, cool dinners, you know, because we're like, yeah, and tip way too much, tip crazy amounts, to the bartender, to the servers, whatever. That was just like my thing. I think that was a lot of people's things at that time. But the point is, you know, life wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, okay.
It's being young and being dumb and being ignorant
And
like,
dramatic and
dramatic.
and
Yeah.
probably doing too many, you know.
Recreationals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I'm thinking exactly. I'm like, big ups to my Rudy and Paco's crew that I used to work with back in Galveston. We used to end up at O'Malley's next door every night. We'd be doing Irish car bombs every night immediately after service, sometimes maybe a little bit before service was over. And, you know, and then on Sundays when it was closed, we'd end up at fucking O'Malley's drinking
It was just
all
such
day
a
and eating
different
hot
time
dogs.
because I
you know?
remember, like, you know, my serving days, my bartending days. I don't know. There were so many different phases I went through, but I guess my serving days when I hung out with all the other staff and stuff, I just remember, like, you know, on our days off, just being drunk all day long and doing stuff like we would go on a ferry, kind of a boat. We're like, we're day drunk. We're going to Sausalito. We're going to go to a restaurant and drink and drink and drink. And then just, like, you know, drink all night and then always end up at Tony Nick's. That was like the spot. So crazy.
Tony
so
Nick's,
different.
we love
now
you.
I'm like, I barely drink. I know
Sebastian,
that's bad, right?
we love you.
Like, I support the wine industry. I drink wine, but I'm like, I don't drink, like, yeah, I just don't feel the need to drink as much.
Yeah.
Or really, you know, I don't drink too much at all nowadays.
I think it's just different too. And I mean, I think that this is something that anybody in the sales industry.
But I love drinking wine and tasting wine, but I will spit, you know, we'll be at home and I'll be spitting because I'm like, oh, I want to taste stuff. Yeah.
I think this is a big thing that anybody that's in the sales industry now that used to be in the hospitality industry can relate to is, like, when I get done at the end of the day, like, I'm fucking exhausted because my day started at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. when I started responding to emails. So by the time it hits like 5 or 6, I'm mentally fried, you know, and physically I'm a little fried. But like before, when everybody needs like a few hours to decompress when they get done with work and they like get home. It's like you get out of the restaurant at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Nothing's open besides bars. You know, it's also like, it's kind of the byproduct of there not being anything out there for service industry.
Yeah, it's the third place.
Yeah, it's like fast food and liquor. Those are your options.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Which is like totally what we're eating right now. So we're a perfect example of that.
No, it's vegan. It's healthy. Yeah.
You know, yes.
Turn that frown upside down is what the
Mr.
box says.
Charlie's.
Mr. Charlie's vegan chicken nuggies.
Yeah. So, you know,
All right.
we're trying over here intentionally consuming.
Yes.
Intentional consuming.
Yeah, right.
And that's a huge part of the podcast is intentionally consuming, right? Like, you know, we're got to address this, right? Like, people are drinking a lot less than they ever have. Me being one of them, right? But I think what is important to know is that wine, especially when you support like these smaller producers, you're supporting so much more than just an alcoholic beverage, right? You're like supporting an agricultural event, right? And beyond that, you're supporting those workers and the people that put their heart and soul into this wine, and the nuances of that, and the characteristics of that, and the terroir of that. But I think intentional, being a little bit more intentional about what you're consuming, obviously going to a farmer's market is like a huge thing for a lot of people.
We still got delivery food.
Yeah.
But it's little steps. It's baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't get actual McDonald's, right? Because that shit's bad for you.
But it's so good.
Yeah. We don't eat McDonald's very often.
Once a quarter,
so we
maybe.
basically allow ourselves, this is the rule, is like if we're road tripping, we allow ourselves fast food.
True.
But like honestly, like after one fast food meal, we're like, we don't want to eat this shit. It doesn't. We don't feel good.
Yeah.
So I think our bodies like kind of immediately like notice it. We might like stuff our face and then we're like, ew. And like that's road trips, which isn't like too often. And even that, honestly, I think we've leaned back on that habit a little bit because we're like, oh, we want to just like get to where we need to get to. So we'll like basically pack up some fruit or whatever little snacks. Yeah. And then when we stop at the gas station, then we're like, okay, we can have some nuts and beef jerky. And then just let's go, because we have a 2-year-old now and it's just kind of crazy. And so we just want to get there in one piece.
Yeah.
11
hours of driving with a 2-year-old in the car is a little bit challenging.
Everything with the 2-year-old.
Everything with the 2-year-old is a little bit challenging. Besides,
she was a sweet little baby. But that toddler stage, they're not kidding.
She's still sweet.
She's so sweet. But she's also kind of crazy sometimes.
Baby Riesling is still as sweet as ever.
Yes.
Let's see. What else? Are we missing anything? Should I roll it back? Should I say every name of every guest that was on season 2?
That just seems like unnecessary.
Yeah, but I just like, I want to give everybody equal acknowledgement.
Well, then go ahead and give them equal acknowledgement right now.
Then what I'll do is I'll just restate my appreciation for everybody that was part of season 2 and everybody that has been on the podcast or been willing to come on the podcast. And even the people that aren't willing to come on the podcast, but still listen and support or suggest somebody else, like we really, really, really appreciate you guys. I mean, this is very much a product of the community, and all we are is, this conduit to the community, right? We're a place, hopefully, where people can gather and people can get to know each other a little bit more. In a 1 hour to an hour and a half episode, and everybody can kind of like come together a little bit more and feel heard and appreciated and
honestly, like
loved. I'm getting a little emotional.
Oh, no, I think honestly, it's just
I just missed the baby. I'm sorry.
That's our excuse for everything. Shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Community, conduit for the community.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's one of those things where, like, we've had such amazing feedback. It seems like people are really digging what we're doing. Like, really positive feedback. So I just think, it encourages us to continue and do what we're doing. And obviously, we're doing things a little bit different. We're trying to change and switch some things up. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think I'm excited about season 2, and one of the things I'm incredibly grateful for is you, Bianca. As somebody, I can talk.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I talk about crying. Are you?
I can talk, and I'm good at connecting with people, and I'm good at getting people into a room and having the conversation. But, big ups to you for being the one that helped me dust off season 2, dust off the brand as a whole, get season 2 set up, setting the standards for quality of production, and now taking us into season 3. And, one of the other things that we should mention, so I'll close that. Thank you for everything you do, Bianca. Thank you for all the hard work that you put into this. I appreciate you. Many people probably don't see you because you're doing so many things behind the scene, but everybody, she's the brains. One of the other things that I think that we should mention, and maybe this is not season 3, maybe this is season 4 or beyond, but we had a couple restaurants reach out to us from other markets that we're really excited that they reached out to us, but we don't want to do virtual Zoom calls. That's not what we're doing. Not
So we're going to do tours
Not right now.
in other markets at some point.
Yes.
So we'll work towards that, and we'll see what we can squeeze in our trip to these other markets. And I think that should be super exciting. We are also at some point going to launch a second brand with the two of us. It's not wine or hospitality related, and we can't be more excited than that, because it's like, ooh, all we do is wine, and literally everything we do, every single facet of our life. But I don't know. That's kind of like on the back burner right now, because I still have to work on the rebrand for the Reluctant Somm. I have a rebrand of our consultancy company.
Websites.
Just so, well, that's part of the rebrand. Once the rebrand is done,
I don't know the difference.
I can get all that other stuff going. And then the marketing strategy and the content strategy. There's a lot of work.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, just know
also,
that we still have more work
I
to do.
swear to
before
God,
this airs.
I wish I could do all of this stuff faster, but with like a full-time job, the side gigs, and then also the 2-year-old, whew, just don't have the energy.
Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciated our 2 weeks off from posting, and
Thank you guys.
thank you everybody for understanding, and we got a lot of likes and we got a lot of good for yous, and I think that's great. And I think 2025 is going to be
Our year.
it's going to be a whirlwind, and I think that it's going to be.
But I mean, it's so busy. We're already looking at our year schedule. It's so busy. Chris just got a new job. He's a regional sales manager west.
Yeah.
For
Sales
an import
manager
company.
west for an importer company.
And that's exciting. He's going to be my supplier.
Yeah.
So we will be in the market together.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Yep. New job, new office, new camera,
What
new
else is gonna
season.
be new.
New season.
What else are we going to do in 2025?
Am I forgetting something?
The possibilities.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that there's.
Anyway, there's lots of stuff on our schedule in the books. But we don't feel as overwhelmed taking it on, because I think, one, we've kind of like learned, okay, we were just so burnt out last year, and it was just like so unproductive being that burnt out, that I think now we're just having to have not really like aggressive boundaries, but we've just organically are understanding our boundaries and our bandwidth and what we need to do to refill that pitcher, right? We are now taking hand working classes. He's doing woodworking.
Handworking. We just stand in the back and we do
I'm
this.
doing ceramics.
Yes.
So maybe we'll make some ceramic goods.
Yeah.
And woodworking, and it'll probably all be dining related, but that's okay. It
may in fact.
It's different.
It may in fact.
It's different.
Be a product that's designed to be eaten off of or eaten with.
But we both still have a lot of practice. We only took one class. We got 5 more weeks to go. Then we need to get a membership.
I got to order my lumber. Until Wednesday. I have a whole nother day.
You're so bad.
I know.
Yeah, I just need to go to the studio and practice.
Must be nice.
I definitely need to practice. Yeah, be nice with when. Like, when do I have time?
Well,
the
food is gone. The champagne is almost gone.
The champagne's not gone yet.
It's not gone yet. I'm just saying it's almost gone.
Yes, maybe we should continue the podcast until the champagne's gone.
I'm fine with that. I'm not cutting you off. I'm just saying we need to start winding down.
Let's see here.
So many great things coming in 2025. I know that it's going to be a whirlwind, but I know that it's going to be fun. And to echo what you said, I really think that we've gotten in touch with like our energy and our bandwidth and like what we're capable of.
And just where we want to put
knowing
our
when
energy.
to rest, when we need to rest.
We're not really putting our time and our energy into things we don't want to do, that don't serve the ultimate I don't know, essentially like what we actually want to do. I think we're definitely trimming the fat, and we're just like, okay, If we're going to do these things, what are we going to do? And here's the thing, we're not limiting ourselves too. I think for a lot of people, they're just like, you're doing too much. You got to focus on one thing. Nope, that's not me. That's not Chris. So we're going to continue to do too many things, but we're going to do it at our own pace. And somehow they all kind of work with each other too.
Yeah.
So I think, we're finding
I feel fulfilled
the
by
balance.
doing all of the things.
Yeah.
You know? And again, at our own pace, I think is important. I mean,
Yeah, maybe it's
obviously,
not going as fast as we would like with everything, but that's honestly, I don't even think we care anymore. I think before it would bug us, and now I'm like, you know, literally anybody else try doing all of the stuff we're doing with a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. And if you can do it, great. And if you do it better than us,
Good.
tell us your secrets.
Yeah. Great. You know, but, I think we're trying the best we can. But I think, again, now we're just finally tuning in a little bit more of what we want and the type of people we want to be around and the type of energy that we want to be around and the type of things we want to be doing, you know?
Yeah, I think that we, what makes us feel pretty fulfilled is like giving back, helping, creating, I think all of these things are things that.
And again, intentional consumption is just like a key point of something that we've just learned more and more is so important to us. And that comes in all different levels, right? To what you put into your body, from food to beverage, and what you put into your mind, what you consume, social media, digitally, books, whatever, whatever you consume and making sure it's aligned with what you actually want,
Yeah. Yeah. You should be listening to us get drunk and eat fast food.
If that's what you're into and that's aligned with your values, for sure.
It fucking better be.
I mean, otherwise we're just, we're just here.
We're just here.
Drinking champagne and eating junk food. Vegan junk food.
Vegan.
Intentionally.
Vegan. Yeah, I think intentional consumption is something you touched on earlier and you touched on again. And I can't drive it home enough how important that is. And it's something that we're trying to focus on a lot more. And I think that it's something
that's going to be the future. I think that's what's going to give people more purpose. And I think it's going to align people more with their communities and their people and, their interests. And I think, you can be as niche-y as you want, right? You can be city dwellers, aka people living in the city with a young child, working in the wine industry and doing a podcast. Like, again, like you can be as niche as you want. That's just our example. But like, again, whatever, you can, and you can find content for as niche as you want to, I think more and more. And I think, it's important.
When I also love too, like, it's not always about like going all in or 100% in on that. One of the things that I was just thinking, we'd be remiss not to be talking about the horrible fires that are taking place in LA right now and all the fucking tragedy that's going on down there. And while I'm by no means like fully aware of what's happening and what area and what restaurants are particularly affected, I will say that one of the things that I've really enjoyed seeing is how Bay Area and surrounding Bay Area businesses have decided to give back. Some are donating percentages of sales, some are donating all profits of a particular thing. I saw today it was an LA-based spirit cocktail, and it was $3 from every martini that's purchased with that goes to the fire relief. And I really love to see that too, because also like conscious consumption can sound really challenging, but again, those are the baby steps. If you're going to go have a martini,
it's just lining up your values.
You can just have a martini that's a little different than what you normally have.
And here's where the big divide is. And we're going to, keep it short because, y'all got to tune into our other podcasts to get into this stuff. But more or less, here's the divide. We're getting sick of supporting the large corporations that don't do much for us. Don't you want to support the causes and the people and the community and the businesses that are aligned with your values? And as much as these large corporations will market the hell out of, we have the values you want, they don't. They will always choose shareholder profit over everything.
Yeah.
So they can market the hell out of their values and their mission statement and blah, de blah, blah, blah. But it's not actually going to be aligned with what you as an individual personally want. So I think we will see, ideally, you know, a uptick into where people are choosing to put their money. And obviously, you know, we don't always have the options, right? Depending on where you live, depending on what it is. A lot of these large corporations have monetized certain areas, but that's where, you know, smaller businesses are going to have to creep up. But you know what? Consumers need to support the smaller businesses, even if it's less convenient, because I guarantee you it will be less convenient, but it's going to be more important.
Yeah. I mean, it is less convenient. Now you can order whatever you want from Amazon and it gets delivered to your house. You never have to leave your home. You never have to leave your home and you can have everything you'd ever want, depending on where you live. And there's still a balance. Obviously.
You don't need to go cold turkey.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a balance, but just be mindful of that. Be mindful of who you're actually supporting, because it is going to change our world. And I think, you know, that's going to be the difference, you know?
I ordered drywall screws today from Amazon because I kept fucking forgetting to buy them.
We don't even buy that much Amazon
But I said,
stuff.
if I don't order this right now, I will never get them.
We canceled Amazon for almost like a year because I got like really annoyed with them. But again, their practices are pretty messed up ethically. They're not doing great things. They're not being sustainable at all. You know, if you want a quick rundown, just go watch, you know, that Netflix documentary where they talk about, what is it, shopping and stuff, and like
we'll plug it.
The trash.
We'll put it in the
No, we won't,
comments.
Because that means I have to do it, and then it's a whole thing. But
I can do it. I write the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Either way, just think about who you're supporting.
Think about who you're supporting.
We won't go into any specific details, but the
whether it's
corporations,
us or not us,
the CEOs, the
just
things.
think about who you're supporting. Think about, you know, who you could be supporting. And yes, it's sometimes less convenient. I mean, our last guest on season 2 was Ramsey from Dolores Deluxe, right? And this is a guy that is there all the time. He works his ass off. He makes all the food. Most of the time when there's lunch service, he's the one making everything. And he's busting his ass. And you could go to Whole Foods, it's 4 blocks away, and maybe save money on a couple things, or you know, you could get whatever you want, but like
the level of care, attention, detail, and literally who you're supporting, it's just it's such a big difference, you know. And
your money for Whole Foods is going to Amazon, is going to big penis-shaped rocket ships flying to the moon. Well, I guess it didn't go all the way to the moon, but going into space.
Just think about it. Think about it. Again,
and all the employees that work for those companies, no shade on them. Yes, they need jobs. This is by no means any like hate towards anybody in the working class. Everybody has to have a job. They have to work for somebody to make money, right?
But we're going to tell you, okay, right now, the ownership and the upper management and the executive levels of those companies are still not going to give their employees what they deserve to have a livable wage. So how do employees of, you know, entry-level positions get livable wages? They have better fucking ownership and management structure. And how does that happen? Not through corporations that run off corporate profit and shareholders' interests at all times. And sorry, but not sorry, that conversation is going to be a lot more apparent, I think, in 2025 and moving forward. Doesn't matter what end of the spectrum you're on. It's affecting us all. And sorry, that's just what it is. So it is what it is until it isn't.
Until it isn't.
I got the gold line there.
And now you realize that there's many things that go on in this podcast besides just talking about wine, because I think we only talked about wine like twice. Other than that, we talked about all the amazing people. We talked about
I think the wine industry is, again,
reflections.
such a good place for us to see all these things, because we love the producers. We love our small producers. There's so many people that we love in this industry, but also we see a fuck ton of privilege.
Yeah.
And it can't go unnoticed.
Yep.
I'll leave it at that for now. But I'm just saying, we see a lot of privilege. We see a lot of things that we're like, I don't think they understand how the lower end of the scale operate at all. So, yeah.
What else? Any other words of wisdom? Any advice? Think about it.
Oh, I should finish my champagne.
Think about what you're consuming. Think about what you're having. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying think about it and try to maybe think of a way to do it better.
And yeah, like, again, even if you don't drink wine, but you want to buy a bottle of wine for a friend or for a family member for a present, DM us. Ask us.
Yeah.
Hey, can you,
At Reluctant Somm.
I'm at this place or whatever, this state, like, can you give me some suggestions? Like, I just go to Safeway or whatever, but I'm like, we can get you linked up we can do a quick search of like some local small shops, kind of try to take a peek and get you some cool stuff coming from small producers that you then get to give to a loved one, and support, people that you can like want to support.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All
All right. Well, I've realized that I don't have anything to cheers you with on the way out. So the champagne's gone, the fast food's gone, and season 2 is behind us.